Hello, this is Salvatore Vinciguerra. Welcome to the Paynes Prairie Preserve in Micanopy, Florida. Just south of Gainesville, Florida, is this dynamic ecological landscape of Paynes Prairie State Preserve Park. The prairie's rich history includes both those of Native Americans and Spanish settlers. The prairie has 23,000 acres and over 30 miles of nature trails. This creates a very unique and diverse habitat for many of the wildlife that live in Paynes Prairie. Nowhere else in Florida can visitors experience wild roaming bison and horses. Nearly 300 species of birds also frequent the park, along with alligators, deer, and many other animals. This Florida State Park offers a variety of experiences for visitors, which includes bicycling, boating, mountain biking, shelling, birding, camping, rollerblading, snorkeling, swimming, fishing, boat tours, and much more. As you can see from this map, the park is easily accessible from either I-75 or 441, and if you have ever driven on any of these highways through Central Florida, then you most probably have actually driven through the Paynes Prairie State Preserve State Park. The park has 50 RV campsites that are electric and water only. There is a dump station, picnic areas, boat ramp, and playground for children. This is my campsite. It is Site 42. And it actually has a pretty big firing area. Since these campsites only have electric and water only, I like staying very close to the bathhouse, and in this case the bathhouse is in walking distance to my campsite. And if you're asking yourself, can my 30 to 45 foot RV fit in this campsite? Yes, it can. Here's a picture of an RV that is of this length in a campsite here at the Paynes Prairie State Preserve State Park. This is Lake Walberg, and it's in very close proximity to the campground. You can either drive here or you can walk here, as there's a little pathway that leads you through a little nature trail to get to this area. There's a bridge with fishing pier, boat ramp, amphitheater, restrooms, playground for the children, and 2 picnic pavilions with a barbecue area. The Paynes Prairie Preserve State Park is a United States National Natural Landmark. It's crossed by both I-75 and US 441 with a scenic outlook ramp, and I'm sure that if you passed by in Central Florida on these interstates, you most probably have stopped at the rest area to observe the Paynes Prairie Basin. The basin's primary source of drainage is the Alachua Sink, and during occasional wet periods, the basin will become full. A notable period occurred between 1871 and 1891 where the Alachua Sink was temporarily blocked. During this period, shallow draft steamboats were a frequent sight on the Alachua Lake in the center of the prairie. The region was also historically known as Alachua Savanah. Its drainage has been modified by several canals. Since 1927, Camps Canal has linked the basin to the River Styx, which leads to Orange Lake and eventually the Atlantic Ocean through the St. Johns River. The history leads itself to knowing that the first name of this area was called Rancho La Chua. Before 1637, Francisco Menendez Marquez, the royal treasurer of Spanish Florida, established Rancho La Chua in the vicinity of Paynes Prairie. It spanned 87 square miles and would be, by the late 17th century, the largest cattle ranch in the colony. It was raided several times by various native groups and by French buccaneers. It became abandoned in 1706. By the mid-1700s, the prairie became the stronghold of the Alachua Band of the Seminole tribe under Chief Ahaya the Cowkeeper. The Seminole town of Cuscowilla was located near modern Micanopy, Florida. In 1776, the area, then known as Alachua Savannah, was visited by William Bartram, who noted in his book Bartram's Travels that it was used as a grazing ground by local Seminole. By the 1790s, Coscowilla had been relocated to a site east of Lake Walberg and became known as Paynes Town. The town and the surrounding prairie was named for the cowkeeper's eldest surviving son, Payne. Paynes Town was destroyed by Tennessee volunteers in 1813. Fort Taber and Fort Crane were both located in Paynes Prairie during the Second Seminole War. After Indian removal, the area became inhabited by European Americans, their slaves, and very small numbers of free people of color. A railroad line was built along the northern edge of the prairie in the 1800s. From the 1890s until the 1970s and even to today, urbanization has had a large effect on the ecology of the Paynes Prairie State Preserve. In 1970, the state of Florida acquired the land of the park from Camp Ranch Incorporated, which owned the park for many years before this time. The park was finally designated as a national landmark in December of 1974. From that time and even to today, there are many wetlands restoration projects in place to help restore the Paynes Prairie State Preserve Park to its natural form. We just finished touring the Educational Center at the state park, and now this video is being taken from the 50-foot observation tower that they have nearby the Educational Center. And now I'll read to you an excerpt from William Bartram's first view of Paynes Prairie, April 1774. Now on a sudden opens to a view an enchanting scene, the great Alachua savanah. Behold a vast plain of water in the middle of a pine forest, 15 miles in extent and near 50 miles in circumference, verged with green level meadows. In the summer season, beautifully adorned with jetting points and promontories of highland. The prospect is greatly beautified by the prodigious number of wild fowl of various kinds, such as cranes, herons, bitterns, plovers, coots, and vast herds of cattle, horses, and deer, which we have seen in the far distance, in detachments over this vast plain. The upper regions of the air contributes to this joyful scene. The silver-plumed heron, early in the morning, hastening to their fisheries, crowd to the watery plain. The sonorous stork and whooping cranes proclaim the near approaches of the summer's heat, descend from the skies in musical squadrons, and descend, spreading themselves over the wide green. Paynes Prairie is part of the southeastern conifer forest ecoregion. The prairie itself is a large Floridian highlands freshwater marsh, composed of different herbaceous plant communities that vary based on water depth. Wet forested areas have southern coastal plain non-riverine basin swamps of bald cypress and swamp tupelo. Southern coastal plain Blackwater River floodplain forests grow along streams. On drier uplands, southern coastal plain oak domes and hammocks of southern live oak grow in areas with moderate moist soils, and Florida longleaf pine sandhills grow on drier, sandier soils. Over 270 species of birds can be seen in the park, as well as American alligators and small herds of Florida cracker horses and Florida cracker cattle, first herded by the Seminoles, were introduced in 1985. The plains bison were reintroduced to the park from the Wichita Mountains Wildlife Refuge in 1975 as a part of the Park Service goal of restoring Florida's natural resources to pre-European settlers' conditions. They roamed this area until the late 18th century. When bison sightings occur, they usually appear along the Cones Dyke Trail. The herd was reduced from 35 to 7 individuals in the mid-1980s after an outbreak of brucellosis. In the late 1990s, the herd was again reduced after inbreeding concerns. The buffalo herd reached a peak of 70 animals in 2011. The park began culling excessive animals in 2012, allowing a target population of about 8 to 10 bison to be free to roam the Florida's prairie. Wildlife is very active at the Paynes Prairie State Preserve State Park. As you can see that this is video of the deer at dusk, and earlier in the day I also saw some deer at the visitor center, and there are birds everywhere flying around across the prairie. Although I didn't have the opportunity to see some wild bison roaming around the park, I was happy with the amount of wildlife that I had the opportunity to see while I was at the park, and later in this video we're going to get to see a great American alligator. Please look out for one of my videos entitled Rain in Paynes Prairie. This video is basically an ASMR video where you're supposed to be listening to the rain and watching as a storm goes through the prairie. And in this video you will see and hear the sounds of Paynes Prairie before, during, and after the storm. Actually, this video right here was a surprise for me to take. And this is because I had to wake up really early to go and drive to the Great Smoky Mountain National Park. As you leave Paynes Prairie, drive north along 441 and you're going to see these spectacular views of the prairie from a different angle. These are the beautiful morning views of Lake Alachua facing east. Another surprise awaits for me only feet away from the fishing pier that I'm standing on. This is an American alligator, and most probably the biggest alligator that I've seen in the wild. Adult American alligators measure 11 to 15 feet in length and can weigh almost up to 1,000 pounds. Female American alligators are smaller, measuring 8 to almost 10 feet in length. If you've ever wondered why the University of Florida has the gator as their mascot, it's because we have over 1.3 million alligators living in the state of Florida. American alligators are apex predators and consume fish, amphibians, reptiles, birds, and mammals. The alligators play an important role as an ecosystem engineer in wetland ecosystems through the creation of alligator holes, which provide both wet and dry habitats for other organisms. Throughout the year, in particular during breeding season, American alligators bellow to declare territory and locate suitable mates. The conservation status of the American alligator is listed as least concern by the International Union for Conservation of Nature. Historically, hunting had disseminated their population, and the American alligator was listed as an endangered species by the Endangered Species Act of 1973. Subsequent conservation efforts have allowed their numbers to increase, and the species was removed from the endangered status in 1987. The species is the official state reptile of 3 states, Florida, Louisiana, and Mississippi. This is Salvatore Vinciguerra. Thank you for watching this video on the Paynes Prairie State Preserve Park located in Micanopy, Florida. If you like this video, please like it by pressing the thumbs up button on the bottom of the screen. And if you really want to see more of my videos, please make sure that you press the red button that says subscribe. Again, thank you for watching this video and have a wonderful day.